Yeah.
Now.
Yeah, okay.
Cool.
Angela, we can barely see you. We can see your beautiful hair.
Sorry.
But maybe you give us a chance to see your face.
Yeah.
Yes, way better.
I am on my tablet, so it doesn't. I cannot put it so that it gives me. So otherwise, I have to hold it like this. Let me see.
Whatever is best for you.
And it's best to, if you have a background, that you have a flat, yeah.
A flat background. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not. Yeah. Let me see. That's why.
Where did you activate the background? I want to try that.
Let me see.
In the.
Did it?
Let me
I
see.
go to
under video.
Video. Yeah. I'm using an iPad, so.
Choose
with more
virtual backgrounds.
Virtual backgrounds, yeah. And you can choose your image then.
Oh, your processor does not meet our recommended specifications.
Oh,
so bad.
It says a lot about your process.
Yes, it's crazy. So they don't even offer me a background. This is not fun. I feel so. Let me see if I can choose something here. No. And then you choose your own photo, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So now I have to find a beautiful picture. Okay. I can do that. Let's be in the jungle. Computer doesn't meet requirements. I don't care. I just want to try it. No? Without a green screen, your macOS version needs to be higher. Okay. I can do that. I will try it later. You can see the jungle.
So, are there any questions based on what we did last time?
I don't have questions. I wonder if anybody did have a chance to look at the scenes mirrors. But questions I don't have of what we did last time. That's all for me.
No, only for me. Only that we sit together with the presentation and see where we can fill in some gaps. But we can do that later.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you say later, after this session, or
I guess at some. So the thing is, what I did, I listened to the video, and then I just built a presentation of what Carlos did. But I think now when you see it in a presentation, that you think, oh, I would put this there, or when we talked about the first, second, third, and zero person, I'm sure that Carlo now, when he sees the presentation built like this, he will say more about each of it, to put more info in, right? And I think first I have to design the whole first presentation of video 1. Then I send it to Carlo, and then then together we sit and he tells me what else he wants to have, how he wants to restructure it.
Yeah, we will do that. Yes. So let's continue. I will share my screen.
Carlo, also I forgot to mention last time, I think you need to mirror your background.
That's what Søren said.
I told him.
Yeah.
Okay.
I will do that. The thing is, this what you see here is what is on the website, Learning Framework for Wellbeing. It is like a living document that I'm updating, reorganizing, and as I go, I add more aspects to it. Yeah, so here I've added a simple concept map IOLEE concept map of the World Cafe dialogue format. Yeah. So the development of the intrinsic learning framework, it's derived from multiple living systems. So I've added a list. Yeah, here you can see Ayurvedic science, Soarikpa, Unani system. Ayurveda, Soarikpa, Unani are considered Indian medical systems of India. Yeah?
Are there more?
There are more, yeah. So there is a ministry of Ayush in part of the central government of India. Ayush was previously, and I'm talking about before 2016, it was called the Department of Ayush, which was under the Ministry of Health. But now it is a separate entity, separate ministry. Ayush stands for Ayurveda, Yoga, Unani, Siddha, and homeopathy. So those are considered the Indian systems of medicine. And what I've done is look at the way they design or describes different systems. And they have a common base. Yeah? So what you see here in the model is this in the middle reference point, which is present moment awareness. Yeah, you have 3 dimensions, yeah, and 3 dynamic squares. Yeah, it's a dynamic between. Here it's called set context, listen for insights, and connect diverse perspectives. But within the context of health context, it is called Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. Yeah, and so Vata is related to, and I will show that a little bit later. Vata is ether and air. Yeah, Pitta is fire and water. Kapha is water and earth. Okay? There's a combination of influences of the different characteristics of elements. So I've used the Ayurvedic model as a basis for developing a universal way of modeling the systems, the dynamics of systems. So quantum physics describes the observer effect. Depth psychology, psychoanalytic, Jung, Freud, etc. There are many who have been involved in the early days of psychology. Also, Carl Lang and William James. So they are these are people who went deeper into what are emotions, yeah? How do they affect us? Jung went into dream interpretations and mandalas, how people draw different kinds of figures and what they mean. And it's more skewed towards the intellectual. Even that is why it's called psychoanalysis.
When you say intellectual, can you say also cognitive?
Cognitive, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's cognition based mostly. System science, systems thinking science is also part of what we do. It has given me a basis for interpreting the systems basis within, or the systems view within Ayurveda, Unani, and Sovarikpa and Siddha, to then design this modeling technique. And so what you've seen is a simple model. I have also a more complex model. Contemplative practices like Tai Chi, Qigong, yoga, and I can also add marma therapy to it, which is, or I practice it as a touch practice. Traditionally, marma therapy is something you do to others, while early on I said, why not use it on myself? So I started practicing it on my own body and saw that I could activate all those points within myself, and it immediately started to recalibrate my body and mind. Montessori education, where that is more child-centered, where the child decides what it wants to learn, and linguistics, scientific study of language and its structure, including the study of grammar, syntaxes, and phonetics. So that is also connected with the language of emotion, the intrinsic language of the emotions framework. So the idea is that we mostly look at ourselves from the outside, and we have come up with a way of helping people become aware of this other perspective from the first person and the 0th person, where we can see ourselves from a totally different first person perspective. Giving us a more complete picture of ourselves, allowing us to see where our behavior comes from, and that it allows us to process the reality that is within ourselves. So what does this lead to? It has the same objective as, for instance, spiritual practice, meditation, etc., that are designed to help us evolve and liberate ourselves from affliction. But it does this through a learning framework that develops one's discernment of reality. If you cannot discern, you can be aware, but awareness alone does not transform the content of experience. You need discernment in order to connect awareness to the embodied experience, so that it then can transform. So that is why Rikpa in Pali, Tibetan Pali, means discernment, or vidya in Sanskrit. What is also important is the multiple intelligences, +1. Multiple intelligences are 8 in number, yeah, developed by Howard Gardner. Yeah. And what are they? The multiple intelligences are enumerated here: musical, rhythmic, visual spatial, the verbal linguistic, logical mathematical, bodily kinesthetic, interpersonal intelligence, intrapersonal intelligence, and naturalistic intelligence. So these are the 8 that Howard described, and these intelligences can be mapped to neurological pathways, yeah, to how we function as biologically, mentally, emotionally. But then he also wanted to describe an existential intelligence. But the problem with that was that he, and that is my assumption, that he could not map it. You cannot map a spiritual or existential intelligence to anything physiological. So I think that is why he didn't really integrate it into. But we describe the existential intelligence in order to explain how it is that awareness itself interconnects all perspectives. It brings together all the other intelligences. It makes sense of them. It makes sense of the information that is gathered through these other intelligences. The observer effect. So, in quantum physics.
Just a sec.
Yeah.
A question. He did integrate it. I have to check whether he has published himself about the 9th intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
But he, for instance, I see a picture here that says introspective questions of life, death, and existence. That's what
he
you
wrote
call
papers about it.
Okay, but okay.
Yeah, but he didn't officially
integrate it in.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, he did write about it.
Okay.
So when you talk about multiple intelligences within educational context, they will still think about the 8 intelligences. So the observer effect, and you can open the reference, yeah, quantum theory demonstrated observation affects reality, yeah, Weizmann Institute of Science. So you'll see that many of these works are come from Germany. Yeah? Also the most of the early translations of Sanskrit and of the Oriental wisdom traditions come from Germany. Look at the works of Jung, Freud, etc., all from the German-speaking context. So in quantum physics, quantum mechanics, they have seen how the observer affects the experiment. And specifically tuning to double slit experiment where an electron is projected or propulsed through double slit, and what is seen that when we intently observe the experiment and the projected electron, that it appears to us as a particle. Whereas if we don't intently observe, the amount of observation, if that diminishes, then we see an interference pattern, so the wave. So that I've seen in what I've seen through field observation in practice is that the amount of observation is responsible for let me rephrase it. When a person feels discomfort, when a person intently focuses on the pain or the discomfort, it becomes worse. Yeah, it densifies the discomfort. While when we use our shift to right-brained observation of the same, right-brained means more holistic, more open, receptive way of looking at, then what appears to be dense starts to spread out and release. So you can, in exercises, we will show how it works. So in order to bridge people who are conditioned to concentrate on, to focus, hyper-focus, that's what we learn in school, to focus, to concentrate. And if you don't concentrate enough, you'll be distracted.
Punished.
Yeah. And the punishment is that you get distracted and your grades go down, etc., etc. But the problem with distraction is not that we don't focus enough, but that we are not connected with. We're not connected with our right brain.
You're not processing it.
Processing what?
You're not processing what is distracting you, or at least properly processing it. You're disregarding it.
Yeah. So when you connect with the right brain, what happens is that you're able to be connected with the peripheral around you. All the senses, sensory input, you're connected with it through the right brain. So when you make a decision, I want to concentrate on just this particular part of the spectrum that my right brain is perceiving, then I can concentrate on that using my left brain. So I concentrate on it, having decided that I want to not regard any other aspect of the whole spectrum, but just concentrate on this. And whatever else comes into the peripheral or moves in the peripheral, it won't distract you because you are already connected with it and have decided not to regard it as important. So that is, for instance, I'll give an example. I was sitting with my back to some people doing something. Andrea and Angela were sitting in front of me, and something fell. and I was not disturbed. I didn't look back. It was not a surprise for me, because I'm always connected with the peripheral, with everything around me. And I just kept on looking at Andrea, and immediately when I felt there was something that fell on the floor, and both Angela and Andrea were distracted, their attention was on that what happened, while I was observing them, looking away, being distracted. And equally here, when you are connected with everything, and you're concentrated at the same time on a particular part of the spectrum, you simply become less distracted, or not distracted. What I'm also saying is that when you feel discomfort in the body and see its features, using the left brain, you analyze, and when you connect with the peripheral, you bridge it by going from concentration mode to listening to all sounds around you, feeling everything there is to feel around you, inside the body, everything outside, space around you. All these multiple dimensions of input. Allow your mind to expand to all these inputs. And at the same time being connected with the discomfort, you'll see how that discomfort gradually expands, spreads out, and starts to resolve. So the integration has two aspects to it. It is the discerning, and the decoding, and at the same time using the right brain, the expanded way of looking at, a receptive way of looking at, to allow that which is transformed through discernment, to really expand and not keep it concentrated. Through concentration, we trap that which we experience. Angela, you wanted to say something?
Yes, comment combined with a question. When we are in moments of stress, we tend to focus. We tend to have a narrow band focus. Is it something that I recognize there's untrained and trained mind. The untrained mind has a tendency to narrow its focus in a stressful situation. And is that something that's been programmed into us, or is that something
logical?
Okay, it's part of how our systems work.
As part of the conditioning.
Okay.
And conditioning means when we
traumatic conditioning.
Sorry?
Traumatic conditioning.
Trauma-based conditioning, yeah. So the trauma-based conditioning, when we feel fear, it is mostly affects the left brain. And the left brain is more concentrated. It modulates attention in such a way that it is concentrated, outgoing, projecting. So what we do, we are alert, we project out, we are concentrated, focused, hyper-focused when feeling fear. When feeling sad, it affects more the right brain. So then we become more open, more soft, feeling inside, and it's more open, more receptive. We don't project, but we gravitate into our body through feeling sad. So that there are different ways in which our brain modulates attention. So the left brain concentrates attention outward, going focused, while the right brain receives input. That is more open. We call it convergent and divergent attention, or focused and unfocused. So but we can use both at the same time.
As needed.
Well, we can use them at the same time in all instances, yeah? When we are present. Yeah? The more present we are, the more awareness interconnects these different perspectives, ways of attending to. I will go to, just give me one moment. Okay. So here we go. So this is a map, concept map of mind. Yeah. So present moment awareness, we think, feel, sense. Yeah, thinking uses, through thinking, we interpret and perceive, and interpret what we perceive. And we feel, through what we feel, we recognize color and texture and feelings, sensations. And through what we sense, we build impressions. Our memories are formed through what how we physically experience things. Also builds the memory of how we felt in this particular situation. So fear affects mostly the thinking interpretation. Convergent attention, projection on the left, while divergent attention, reception on the right, connected with feeling, recognizing, and impression. And attention integration, that is when both are used at the same time, that is connected with both dynamics of thinking, feeling, and the integration of attention is through the hind brain. So this map, you can also map it onto the brain, as it were. Seeing the left brain connected with thinking, sensing, and the right brain with feeling, sensing. Yeah? And the frontal cortex being connected with thinking, feeling, feedback, feed forward. Yeah? So let me see. Yeah? So here you have, I've mapped the brain itself. Yeah? So left brain dominant, orthosympathetic, right brain dominant, parasympathetic. And the neurological systems that are affected by the left brain, which is more connected with the orthosympathetic and directly activates the orthosympathetic, and the adrenergic system, which are the systems that are activated that secrete neurotransmitters and hormones like cortisol, adrenaline, noradrenaline are prone to be activated in these cases of high stress, yeah, orthosympathetic and adrenergic contract, they elicit, they secrete these types of hormones, while the right brain is more parasympathetic and cholinergic in how it activates. Yeah,
so in chronic or acute stress situations, the left brain is activated most of the time, and in a sense, the right brain is suppressed, if not actively, intentionally corrected.
It may be suppressed, but it also may it may be not in sync. It may be suppressed, either suppressed or not in sync. Yeah, because in case of, for instance,
when you say not in sync, it's adapting to the stressful situation.
Adapting, yeah,
right?
Yeah. So that means that we can feel fear and control, and when we continue to be triggered, and through the left brain, we cannot hold inside what we are feeling, or suppressing. Then the parasympathetic will become active and express, open up to express the sadness that we feel, either sadness or anger.
Very interesting.
So fear suppresses the left brain, or it uses the left brain to control, through the orthosympathetic, adrenergic. Those are subsystems that are activated in that case. So you see it in the body language, you see it in the whole demeanor of a person, while the right brain is actively involved related to feeling sad and feeling anger and expressing it. And when it's projected out, it's mostly a combination of both the sympathetic, parasympathetic left and right brain, because it's when, for instance, I become angry at a person, it is both control, which is projected, which projects out the sadness, anger that we feel. So it's the control through the left brain, orthosympathetic, adrenergic, that projects out the anger that we feel. And the hindbrain is the one that is mostly involved in feeling the rejection, because rejection suppresses, it brings down, it makes a person reserved. It brings down the rhythm with which you speak, if not completely silent. It brings down the frequency of in the voice. A person who is fearful, the voice resonates more in the upper part of the body, while when a person feels rejected, the pace goes down, the frequency goes down, more bass in the voice. And in the case of sadness, it is in the middle, chest, abdomen, that projects out the sadness, anger. And these are things that you can really apply when you listen to a person, feel a person, how that person moves, what energy is behind the words that he or she says, and you can feel, sense how that happens, what energy is behind it. If it is a warm energy or a cold energy, if it is fear, concentrated, projected, in the form of control, or repressed, in terms of and going inward. All these things you can notice. So this is just a this is the complex mapping within IOLEE of mapping the dynamics of mind, the brain, nervous system. And so you can map most anything. So I have maps for most of, for different systems. I'll show you the map for the Ayurvedic. So this is, here you see, when we talk about thinking, the orthosympathetic nervous system in Ayurveda, it is connected with prana. Prana is the energy that motivates, that pushes, and that underlies the activity of vata, air, space and air movement. So from prana expands into space, akasha, ether, moves, and produces movement. That is the characteristic of air. Both together form the basis for vata. Vata means wind. And then you have tejas. Tejas means fire, change, transformation. Tejas, fire, transforms, while it is fire and water, the basis of pitta. And pitta translated means bile. So bile in Ayurveda not only refers to the physical bile, but also to mental characteristic, emotional. And while kapha, as a dosha, kapha.
Sorry, what is the bile?
Bile, pitta, bile on the right.
No, but what body part is that, or aspect of the body?
Bile means gal in Dutch.
Gal, okay. Gal. The gallbladder.
Not a gallbladder. Bile is secreted. It's a liquid.
Okay.
It's the brownish liquid that is secreted by the liver and gallbladder. So the bile aids in the transformation of what we digest, aids in digestion. But as such, bile in the form of what we call Agni. Agni in Sanskrit means also fire, but it relates to not the digestive bile, the digestive fire, but it relates to the or not only to the digestive fire, Agni, but it also relates to the metabolic fire. Yeah? So the metabolism involves not only digestion, but also cell metabolism, how plasma is transformed into the different tissue elements. Yeah, and kapha, phlegm, yeah, is is that which combines both the humor of papa's water, yeah, or the elements water, and earth. So water stands for density, more density, compression, and matter stands for structure, structuring forms, structuring form. And form, what does form need? Space. So it's like a interdependence. So this is also a complex model used to model all the dynamics of the doshas and the different fields, prana, tejas, and ojas. And prana is mostly considered connected with the nervous system, and orthosympathetic, adrenergic, and tejas is more connected with the parasympathetic and digestive, metabolic, while ojas is a field that is mostly related to the immune system. Let's take 5 minutes break. I'll be back in 5 minutes. And we are back.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
So, any comments?
I do need to go through those diagrams again, so I get a deeper understanding of how the diagrams work, so I can apply to what I've been talking about in terms of trauma.
Mm-hmm.
I am also involved with the think tank. They are looking at mindset and social cohesion. From my perspective, their take on mindset is very economic driven. It's very motivation based on economic reasons, and not it doesn't have any aspect of the more complex aspects of stress, involvement, and so forth. So I need to understand the diagram so I can provide them with a good reason why they cannot base their surveys or study solely on economic motivation for mindset.
Yeah, and if you look at the circular economy, yeah, if you look at what we're talking about or what people are talking about within that context, then you reflect on it from an IOLEE perspective, then you see that the reason why we are disconnected from the natural ecosystem, from the earth, the planet, doesn't lie out there. It's in here. We are completely disconnected from our own body and mind, our own natural ecosystem inside. So that reflects in our relationship with others. No empathy or less empathy, and no empathy for the natural ecosystem.
And that creates so basically the orange economy marketing or communication, yeah, you could say integrated marketing communication movement is another way to cover and keep people on the external and not coming back and integrating the internal aspects, keeping people focused on the external aspects. It's like you mentioned out there. It's orange economy. So keep people all their attention out there and not connecting with themselves and thereby fix it. That's why I mentioned, for instance, my email to Dr. Gertenblut, that IOLEE is something that can surgically address those issues, and not only the issues of that. I forgot there's several things we mentioned in that email, but it's a number of things that we can address by reconnecting with ourselves from inside out.
Yeah, but
like not polluting.
Yeah, you talk about it as if people out there intentionally don't want people to connect with themselves. But the thing is that as a society, we are completely conditioned to only look at from the outside. That's what is in the inside is unconscious.
Yeah, and the reason why I talk about it as people not wanting us to be looking inside is exactly because of that. We are conditioned to. And my perspective in terms of skills, in terms of complexity, I'm assuming at this time, there's all other proofs, but that there's others, that there are systems that keep us tending to that in that direction.
Yeah, all systems are geared towards in that direction. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whether intentional or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those who are higher up in the hierarchy, because we're talking about a hierarchy, who keeps this in place.
Yes.
Yes. But most of the people in the hierarchy are not aware.
You mean at the lower end?
Yeah, at the lower end.
Lower ends, yeah. There's another aspect too. Something else to bring in to consider is that we might be in a ecosystem or biosphere that is conditioned to be like that in that way. So this is not necessarily everywhere in our universe, for instance. Let me say it that way.
Yeah. Planetary.
Yeah.
So I'll provide the models in Teams. Don't distribute it yet out there because we
yes, I don't think they should be distributed either, because I think that's the core value of IOLEE. It's that's something that needs to be patented.
It needs to be patented, yes. Yeah. And patenting is not necessarily to become rich of it, but to keep people from misusing it.
Yes.
Yeah, for me, the question was, while you were presenting, that I could see and hear from both of you, you're already in the material, so you know the whole concept and how it's built up. For me, who's never been in there, the question was this huge picture of left side, right side, how it's all connected. How can we build this up so everybody can understand it? And then at the next step, connected to Ayurveda, connected to something else, and to show it's all connected to each other and it's layers on top. So that would be a good challenge between you and me to see how we can, in the second course of the framework, explain the framework in a way that everybody, even a grandmother, can understand it, and then understand how the connection happens between kapha, air, whatever there is, so that, because if you only show the big picture, it's like, oof, oh my God, how can I understand this? But if we slowly build it up and start in the middle and say left and right brain, left and right brain, what is there, how is it all connected, and then build up to the outer space, I think we have a good chance to take everybody with us, that they understand how the system works in total.
Right, yeah. We'll do that before January.
Oh, I would love to participate in that.
Yeah.
Sure. So the idea is, as soon as we have the presentations ready, let's say for day one, where we had the call last week, and this presentation is ready, we can share it with you, Angelo, so you can also have a look at it after I reviewed it with Carlo. And then it's important to know your feedback as well, and to see if there's something missing or not. For me, it's just very important to as I'm not in the universal system, I'm not, you know, like so intellectually involved as you guys are. For me, the question is, how can we bring it down to a language and graphic and wording that, even if I haven't studied anything in that direction, but I want to learn IOLEE, that I can eat it up in a way that I can understand it. So I'm actually the best participant for that. So we have to build kind of like the system that in the end, I understand everything that you talked about, and make it visual with graphics and words and whatever we need, so that we can translate it to everyone, right? Otherwise, it's only a system for people who are intellectually already very deep in this topic, and that would be very sad, because it touches everyone.
Yeah,
no,
I totally.
That is
I
why
totally understand.
Angelo wants to be part of that conversation. That we have.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Let me. I don't know if this is a dynamic, but I think it's a very valuable asset. My experience with showing a video I have of fish swimming, it has helped me put people at a certain level to what I usually speak about, dynamics and complexity. Very instantly, I let them see the video, and I can talk about these concepts from that video on. It's something you may look at to see how maybe we need to incorporate that or not, as a how you say that, help resource, as a catalyzing resource to bring them to understand quicker. It's because they are observing nature, and most people don't stand still to observe nature and external, not even the internal nature that we talk about here.
Yeah, I've described that in the framework also. Here, this part, organically guiding systems towards integrity. And I've also linked to self-adaptive behavioral schools of fish. So I've integrated your thoughts.
Is it the same? Is it the same video?
It's not the same video.
Okay.
It's another one, which describes. Let me see. Let me share it in a different way, because I need to.
There's two things. I've noticed that the one I use is it's more effective. I used others as well. The other thing about it is that video is no longer available publicly. I downloaded it, so we need to find out or look at whether we can use it, and to what extent we can use it.
Yeah, everything you have, everything that helps to translate it for everyone is the best, because if we have a really good analogy, which could be the fish or others or whatever, and then explain the system, it's way easier for everyone to relate it to something, instead of just putting it out there and then this is it. You're like, ooh, right? Because if we lose someone not understanding what we want to teach, then it's really hard to get them back.
Yes, I understand that.
Yeah. Okay, we share computer sound. Why is this? Can you still hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, okay. YouTube. It's made by cinematographers.
Yeah, this one is very good to show the schooling aspects, and it is non-hostile compared to the other one.
Yeah, and it comes closer, huh? It comes very close to
fish.
It comes very close to the fish, so that you become part of
the fish.
Yeah. The schooling.
And how do you use this analogy compared to what we just talked about before the break?
It is self-adaptive. Yeah. So the schooling is self-adaptive, and if our society were to function in a similar way, we would be much more in harmony. We would be much more empathic, connected with our surroundings, with the natural ecosystem, etc.
Okay, cool.
So I've described this in here. Our mind body is a living system, which is comprised of many different biological parts that are orchestrated to function as a whole by our human consciousness. At the beginning of life, our personal experience is perfectly attuned to our consciousness, including all of the biological parts which it orchestrates. In system science, this is described as the whole that is more than the sum of the parts and is self-adaptive in nature. Yeah, as an example, we can look at how schools of fish organize themselves. If our body and mind would function with the same capacity to self-adapt, our world would be much more peaceful and people would be much more resilient and well, being the norm of our society. Why is this not the case? Trauma-based conditioning disrupts the way that our consciousness relates to and organizes itself and all biological parts. It loses integrity, self-adaptive behavior, synchrony, through the lack of feedback, and elicits disruptive responses throughout all biological subsystems. This constantly influences these systems towards unbalance. We see the effects of this unbalance within our own mind, body, and the way we communicate with others, the way we organize our political system, our economy, and the way we relate to our planet's natural ecosystem and beyond. Conditioning makes us see things from one perspective, conditioned perspective, the third person, and interpret reality in a unidimensional and objectifying way. Unidimensional also means that we tend to think linearly. Yeah, so here I relate to the linear way of thinking that is at the basis of our educational system, how we organize the economy, etc. So we in the bottom of the second part, I talk about to show how this works. Yeah, I describe the intrinsic language of emotions framework, mapping responses to biological responses to experienced emotions, feelings. These responses structure mind and body in specific ways and adhere to certain laws and dynamics, showing language-like characteristics. One of the laws is that response is undifferentiated or forms a whole, having cognitive, affective, and biological aspects. Another is that it can be read as though reading a book, recognizing, decoding, reading, understanding, acknowledging, embracing, and resolving responses internally, restores feedback, the system's self-adaptive behavior or nature, synchrony, balance, and resilience of the learner's consciousness, mind, and body. This process in which the intrinsic and extrinsic learning processes inform and complement each other is circular, non-linear, dynamically growing our individual and collective wisdom, readjusting our course of actions, reflecting increasing levels of harmony. To show how this works and how this can cultivate well-being, heartfelt communion, co-conscious dialogue, collaboration, new, more sustainable developments, organizing a circular economy, and positively impact our planet's ecosystem is the objective of this framework for well-being.
Quick,
Yeah.
you mentioned dynamically growing. I would consider, I suggest dynamically adaptive. It is growing if the whole is growing, and it is shrinking if the whole is shrinking, or vice versa. But it's dynamically adaptive. It's not something that it's growing all the time. And if you look at the system totally, the system will be evolving through stages of stability.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes. I say
the growing is a dynamic aspect. So when you say growing, it's only one part of the dynamic. It's back and forward, but over time you see it improving or the whole system becoming bigger or more expansive.
Mm-hmm. But
okay.
The dynamically growing relates to collective wisdom. Yeah, so I've already described it as self-adaptive, self-adaptive system. So that already includes the system needing to maneuver and grow or shrink as needed. Mm-hmm. But our collective wisdom continues evolving, continues to grow.
Mm-hmm. Okay. The other thing is for CERN, I use the other one, and the other one has not only, this time you saw a fish, but actually a shark swimming through the fish, but very coexistently. The other one shows sharks, dolphins, birds attacking a school of fish. And it shows the school of fish adapts themselves based on the projectiles, and that shows in a sense one, the fish coming together to form a bigger body, and thereby in a sense warding off the other attackers. At the same time, trying to avoid those projectiles that come to them to eat them up.
Yeah,
and
if you have the video on OneDrive, then I can include
I
that.
I do have it on YouTube. I posted it in a private section, but I can share it with you, and if you allow me to look it up.
For me, so for me, oh, sorry, Angelo, you're not right.
Yeah, just one more thing. I used it as especially also in, for instance, explaining, for instance, in our neighborhood, there's many people coming in, stealing artifacts in the homes, and people being attacked and so forth. I use it to explain to people that no matter how much you hunker down by yourself and build big walls with multiple cameras everywhere, you cannot avoid that, because they will adapt to that, and you make yourself more vulnerable instead of collectively doing something about it. Is that okay? The video is important. That's okay. Let me go ahead.
For me, it's just important. I have the feeling now, you two guys already made 3 steps to the big picture of society, how we adapt and stuff like that. But for me, as the outsider, I'm still in framework of IOLEE.
Yes.
How do I translate that to me? And what is the picture of the fish for me to understand better what IOLEE wants to achieve? And what is my part in it, right? So if I now try to translate that, it means I am one of these fishes. And with IOLEE, I learn to connect in my society so that I can build, or that we together can build a new way of adapting to what's happening instead of what we already have, right? So
not only that,
the question is, so the question is how to show me the video is the one thing, but everything that we talked before, how do we translate it to that picture so that it helps me to understand the big picture, the framework?
So the school as such is a system, functions as a system. And all the fishes inside that system self-adapt. Yeah. So that is also how we need to be able to relate to ourselves from the inside. All the feelings, sensations, all the parts in ourselves, when they work in that self-adaptive way, then there is a constant flow and adjusting and like that.
So it's also a picture of my body, and the body is the school of fish.
Yeah.
See, now it's easier for me to understand it, right?
School of cells. School of cells.
School of what?
Cells.
Yeah. So you show the picture of the fishes, but then it's a school of selves, right? And that's the harmony that I want to have in my body. So if I get attacked, my body can naturally and healthy respond to that. But also if my body is doing that, then I'm one fish in the big society, which can then have the chance to become a big school, right?
Exactly.
Good. See, this is the translation that I was missing, because you two guys are already deep into it.
That's
so
okay.
That is something that we have to build up in the future trainings with people who don't understand it. That we, for instance, say, today we talk about framework. What does that mean? One, think about your body, because last time we talked about the touch methods, right? All your points in your body, how you activate them. Today, we want to see what happens if you activate all of them and what kind of picture can we use, which would be the fish school, right? So now think about all these parts of you are a fish school, and we're going to show you a video to understand how perfectly it would work if everything is aligned or adjusted, right? Then I can build the bigger picture from there.
To give you a bit more, you can think of your body as a community of cells, and they tend to cluster based on the goal of that cluster. And I'm going a bit deeper so that you have more, so that you can. So, for instance, the heart is a community of cells with the focus or the goal of pumping blood. The liver cleaning the blood. You see where I'm going? And each one of those clusters have each of one of those clusters have a function, but together they become a community of your body, of you.
But then it would be I'm thinking trainer like, right? Okay, teacher.
Yes.
So that would mean, if you would explain that to me, we would start with, what's the smallest piece in your body? It's a cell.
Correct.
How can this little cell communicate with other cells? Oh, and out of a sudden it becomes a heart. Yes. So it is a group, but it's 1,000 tiny cells. If we now take a step back, there are other organs in your body who are also tiny cells, but they are a school for themselves. But in the bigger picture, they are all playing together. And then if we take another step back, it's your whole body. And even though you have a skin, all these cells are connected in your body. They're all reacting. They are all active. And if we can establish that these cells and these systems all align with each other and work again like a school of fish, then you can connect with your society better, because that's the big school of fish, right? So then you become the tiniest piece in the big organ of society.
Yes.
And then we can talk about the framework, where we say, and how do we do that? We do that with the 5 things, Ayurveda, whatever. So then I can understand, okay, now I get it. Because if we use all these different methods that IOLEE includes, it helps me first to align my school of fishes inside of myself, and then to be a part of the big school of fish, right?
And that's exactly inside out.
Yeah.
That's exactly inside out.
Yeah. But this is how we have to translate, because I was sitting in front of the screen all the time thinking, how has the first thing that we talked about today before the break, how is this related to the video? And I was like, where's the connection? So there is the translation. Now I got it. So we have to somehow so if we build this up for a second course, we definitely should start with the cell, then the heart, then the liver, then the organ system, then the body, and then the society, and then go back into the brain and say, how is it connected in the brain? And why are we using different methods in IOLEE? And how can we make it happen that you can get back there? Because this is the benefit of IOLEE, to reconnect you with your normal system.
Yeah, so we don't stop at the society. We go also to the whole ecosystem, the whole planet, and the whole universe.
Yeah, but the thing is, Soren, me, you, and Carlo would make that extension, but most people don't. Do you have a way to? Okay. Most people.
Okay,
go ahead.
But that is the thing that that is what makes IOLEE different. So that is why it's extremely important to explain this in a way everybody can understand. So that I realize, oh, if I only learn from the outside in, it cannot change what is naturally. So it is the natural form to learn from the inside out. So it's good to have IOLEE, and I need to choose IOLEE because IOLEE will help me to be back as a part to be part of the fish school in however big I want to draw the picture.
Yeah.
Right.
Guys.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I have to jump into a different class. Yeah.
Okay. I'd like to share the link. I don't know if you can send it. I'm sending it to you through WhatsApp.
WhatsApp,
so you can share,
or email.
So you can share it with
Teams. Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
Okay, Teams. Teams. Okay, I'll share it with Teams then.
Yeah.
Teams.
Okay.
Teams. Okay.
So, Angelo, if you're available later, I had a meeting with Karaf, with what's her name?
You're Sherelle?
No, the director of...
The president?
Yeah.
The president?
President,
okay.
Yeah. So I'll talk to you about it later.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Talk to you later, guys.
Bye. Bye, Soren.
Bye, Soren.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.